Well, what a moment for this club. In the 6 years that I've been involved with the club, we've always prided ourselves on going forward and evolving. But all the way through that process, we always held out hope one day that we could reconnect with the history of the club in a particular way. And today, I think we proudly, acknowledge that we've achieved that. So I'm really, it's such an important day for us as we go forward. Obviously, we had a very challenging season last season, but really this is a renewal for the club as we go forward, and that's really the theme of it. And it is a big day, Eric. It's a big day. It's a big building. It's a big building. We're a big basketball club, and it's a big city, and no better place to have a big coach than Sydney. And on that point, I'd just like to acknowledge and welcome Brian Goorjian as the new lead coach of the Sydney King. Brian, please come on. You ready for this? Thank you. Take a seat, man. Take a seat.
And so we're going to kick off with a few questions, just the Q&A, as I mentioned up here before. Coach, great to see you again. I think the last time I saw you as a Sydney King, we were probably at the Piermont Bridge Hotel with the likes of the Matty Nielsen's of the world throwing a few back and celebrating one of the wins around the three-peat. So welcome back in again. Now, the first question is, really, this is not I imagine for you, is not like any other job that you might have taken in the NBL or around the world from a coaching perspective. There's so much history. There are so many memories. It must be, I imagine, an emotional homecoming as well.
Yeah, very much so. I left. I mean, it's such an unbelievable story. The time we had with the Kings and the three-peats, but when it finished, when I walked out that door, I remember giving Dory a hug, saying, it was great, but onward and upward. And I went overseas, and coming back and getting involved in the competition again, everything was my thought process was always over the last 12 months has been I want to come back to Australia. I want to coach in Australia again, and but I want to go somewhere where I felt like I was needed and wanted. And the fact that Sydney has done so tremendously, and Paul and Robin and what they've done, Luke and Bogut with the organization, with the franchise, it just didn't seem like something that my services would be required for. So I almost I wake up at night now and kind of open my eyes and go, God, can this be true? And I just feel so fortunate that the timing's right. I feel like two things that are important to me. I feel wanted. I feel like you're happy that I'm here, and that I'm going to be good for the organization. And for me, it's coming home. It's finishing off my basketball in the best city in Australia, in the strongest franchise. Again, like I said, I know that's a long story, but I am emotional. I'm really, I feel really fortunate, and I'm really excited. And the other side of this is the past is the past, and that was great. But what's ahead, and the opportunity ahead, and what we can do moving forward, is what this is all about.
Fantastic to hear you say that. The other thing that you touched on, Bogues and Luke. Tell us about that. So obviously you have experience with them all through your basketball career, and especially international. What is that going to be like? How do you see that dynamic working? They've added so much to our club with regards to player personnel and coaching, even at a certain level, around bringing younger players up and helping improve players. How will that relationship work, do you imagine?
Well, I just know coming back into the league after 12 years in Japan, China, outside of the league, coming back and being at Wollongong and coming here and playing and going, well, there's a lot of elements that we needed to do there, but one that everyone talked about that's not there is the Luke and Bogut element to this. And I just know from a coaching standpoint and from a basketball standpoint, they're going to be so helpful in putting a roster together and discussing strategies. And both of them have such tremendous knowledge, and they also bring an excitement to anybody that you're trying to bring in here. You've got Andrew Bogut and Luke Longley there. So, as far as development, as far as understanding what a player needs, having that expertise around it, I mean, no other club has that.
Yeah, fantastic. And so when you look to start, your first days and getting things started with the club, I think one of the questions that fans are really interested in is what kind of basketball can we expect from a Brian Goorjian team? I think all of us that have been here, and the past is the past, but know the past, we know they're going to be solid on defense, but what kind of style of basketball will we be looking at in the new season?
Well, everyone comes up here and says we're going to run, and we're going to jump, and we're going to defend, and we're going to win, and we're going to be the greatest things. But I think the two things I'm thinking about early is the winning's in the picking. So we've got an open book here now for the roster, and guys that bringing in here, I think setting the standards in the beginning is so important because planting that seed, what the culture is, wanting to be a king, wanting to play for the Kings, and I think a big element just to start with is that seeing a team that's going to just bleed for the colors and bleed for the uniform, play hard at both ends of the floor, be passionate, and want to be a king. And I feel like if you set those standards early, and the exciting part about this is we have an open book. We can go out and select people now. We're not committed to too many, so the opportunity is there.
And that was something I wanted to talk to Paul about as well, just weigh in on this. But being able to have this decision made this early in the season that's coming up, and just at the end of the existing season, how crucial is that moving forward, and what kind of advantages might that give us?
Well, you can print money, but you can't print time. So time's of the essence, and so all we needed to do was act swiftly, and we did that. And I'm very grateful to our ownership group that agreed that we'd adopt a pace of play in this regard of what we wanted to achieve, and I think we've achieved that. And we've had some challenges in past years with coaches arriving late in the cycle of pre-agency and free agency. So to that extent, we've addressed that, and we're very grateful that 48 hours is a long time in basketball, and what can be achieved in vigorous conversations and negotiations. But look, this isn't our first rodeo. We've danced with Brian before, and I couldn't get him to come home with me. But I think I'll give credit to Luke particularly, who played a key role in having the conversation with Brian, and we just couldn't be happier. We just could not be happier for the outcome we've achieved, and we're just excited by what lies ahead. And it's remarkable what is the opportunity here in Sydney now.
Yeah, and I think following on from that as well, Brian, when you look at what you have coming up as well, so we not only have now Sydney Kings as the major focus, but you also have a little bit of work to do coming up in Paris.
Correct. Such an exciting time, and being the national coach is, and with Paris coming up, and I just think, we put together introduce 6 or 7 new young players to this. I think the Olympics in Paris is going to be exciting, but the basketball side, the game's grown so much, and the international teams have gotten so strong. It's going to be an amazing tournament. So I always feel like too is I'm always in my time in life it's very important to me. I'm getting better at my craft, and I always feel like when I'm a part of the Boomers and you're in that competition, you come out of that sharp, and you come out of that, razor sharp. You're tested in every aspect, putting a team together, playing together with a short period of time, and then competing against the best coaches in the world. So this job I take very seriously. It's the strongest brand, and we've got great support, and there's high expectations here. So for me, it's very important I'm on my game. So it's a great tie-in. I'm excited about that. And then when I finish that up, I get to walk into this situation razor sharp.
Fantastic. And so I think a lot of people that weren't around in those three-peat days and when you were the coach of the Sydney Kings before, or maybe didn't follow you and haven't followed you as closely, I think for them, what would be interesting to touch on, and I know that people hang monikers on coaches, are you a player's coach or a tactician or both, but I think what fans might be interested in as well is how do you see your style when it comes down to coaching? Can you give us some insight on that?
Well, my dad always, and it stuck with me. He was a huge influence on me, and the line was always everything around you, everything you do, the winning's in the picking, and that's why this is so important right now. Who's sitting next to you? The guys on the bench, the guys that are playing, the imports, and that aspect of this, when you say style of play, I think my strength in this is that I've had a great ability over time in my selection of the people. I've had great, you look at Guy Malloy here, you look at Billy Thomas here and here, I've had legends sitting next to me, and I've had some of the strongest players in groups that have ever been assembled, as not only as basketball players, but as people. And I've been in this long enough now to interact with guys in their 50s that have played for me that are now lawyers. Jason Smith is the head of basketball for Basketball Australia. So I think when you say my strongest suit is my selection, I think I've been very good that way. That I'm not for everybody, but I know who is my guy, and attract those guys and get them to play a style of basketball that everybody likes, that they're comfortable with. And I think with me, you know what you're going to get. So I'm not patting myself about X's and O's, or I think I'm competitive there. But I think what I'll do for the organization is bring a group of guys that everybody's going to be proud of, and they'll be a team, and they'll be together.
100%. So before I turn it over and have some other questions beyond just the ones that I'm super curious about, going back to those days with the Kings, one thing that I think we noticed as Kings fans was you have a very healthy respect and a need even from a coaching and players' point of view around the game to have a vocal fan base on game days, and you required almost like a sixth man on the floor. I remember those days talking about the fans and how crucial they were to helping the team. Maybe worth 4 to 6 points a game or more sometimes. What do you think about that moving forward with the Kings fans and some of the things that the Kings have done, packing this place 18-124 on the Game 5 last year? How do you think that's going to go?
You're right. I mean, everything around it is so important, and I just I know when I came back here, the warmth with the people that work, hand out the programs, the guy that ran the boxes, all those people, when I walked in the door, were important to me. And I felt like that era, we made everybody around the team feel like they were part of the team. And when I finished, and one of the most gut-wrenching losses I had, we were 1-1 with you guys, and we came here, we were 15 up at halftime, and you took our pants down in the second half, and I walked down that hallway, and I didn't know where to go, so I went to where all the staff and all those people, they're having their hot dog, and gave everybody a hug and say, "This is it for me, I'm done, thank you." And they're looking at me like, "Shit, you don't work here." But I just felt like we had that family. Not only did we have support, and it's the biggest city, but everyone was part of our family. We're going to work hard at that. And then again, what Paul's created here off the floor. Again, walking in here for the first time as a spectator when you handed out the rings and seeing the 15,000 people and sitting right there and looking up and seeing that scoreboard, I go, this is like the NBA. What's gone on here is incredible. And I have a dream of this place being packed, us winning the championship, and everybody up.
Dreams come true, man. Dreams come true.
And we're going to work hard at it. But the connection, it's such a big part of the culture. And I think, again, that goes back to the people that we have here. And I think we're going to work hard at it. And I think it's going to be a winner in that area.
Well, from the fans and all those people that work behind the scenes that you mentioned before, welcome back, Coach. It's great to have you here. Now, with that, let's open it up to the floor. Questions, please.
Gord, Matt Logue. Along the lines, obviously, you mentioned the appeal to come back in the history. But how much of a factor was the fact that Kings have made as a development club? Like you've been high on Jalen Galloway for a long time, just recently signed a deal. Like how motivating was that to you to come into a franchise where you could put your fingerprints on that and hopefully strengthen that for future years?
Well, I just think, the excitement of development, and this is before me coming here, it's an attractive destination for players. So, recruiting's important, and it's nice to walk into this organization because it's got everything around it for you. And as I said before, what's around it internally with Luke, with Bogut, with people like that around us, the development side's going to be a big part of it.
You mentioned the 3-year deal. Do you envisage this being your last professional contract, or are you treating it like an open book?
It's an open book in the form. I hope it's 10 years, and I hope I last that long. But I really don't plan on bouncing. I've done the overseas, and I wanted to make I had that dream of the EASL, and that's why I left and make Australia part of that. And now coming back and that finishing up and coming back, this is my last one, and I want to finish a king. But why don't you say, I don't know if it's going to be 5 years or 10 years or 3 years or whatever, but I'll know when it's done. And right now I have huge energy, and I want to finish my coaching at a king.
You said the roster's an open book. Is there potential to look at former Kings, the likes of Xavier Cooks, for example?
Oh yeah, there's we're going to target the best, and again, we're on that right now. That's a little thing for over there, but we're working right now at putting together a good team.
When you left here 16 years ago, the club was destroyed. The unveil was arguably its lowest point. Is there a sense for you, I know you've obviously come back and coached those 2 years with Little Warren, but is there a sense of redemption for you coming back to this place after how you left it in the first go around?
Sometimes you get, all I know is when I talk to Bogut, when I talk to Paul, when I talk to Robin, it tugged at the heartstrings. Yeah. But I had this, is it right for the team? Is it right for the city? Is this the right place? And it was. And, that, nothing more than that. I keep saying it, everyone like with me, the three-peat was great. And, but again, it's the future. It's what's next. That's in a little package, and I'm just really excited about the prospects of forming a dominant team for a long period of time.
As successful as those teams were, not just the three-peat, but the 6 seasons. You went to 5 grand finals. Your team in 07-08 went 27-3, won 90% of its regular season games. But the one thing that you never had, and it's sort of touching on something Paul was saying, is the crowd support and the fan base. The Kings are coming off a year where they've had the greatest attendance ever, averaged over 12,000 per game. How energised does that get you, knowing that they're going to put everything into Paul's done an unbelievable job into putting together the resources to make this team a championship caliber team every year, or at least that's the goal. Add that into the fan support that even through those great years, you never really had at the entertainment centre. 04-05, you're averaging about 5,000, if that, to a game. Now you're coming into an environment where it's expected that you're going to get 10,000 plus every single game. How energised does that get you? Knowing that
You're feeling
You've
good.
done it well.
Goosebumps.
You've done it well. Yeah, and everyone can relate to that. But the side issue to it is, it's funny, when I left Australia and I went overseas and I started coaching, there was so many challenges overseas.
Yeah.
But the one aspect that I didn't realize was, when you're in China and you're playing in Beijing, and it's like you're at Collingwood and there's a billion people, so you're not worried about the fans, you're not worried that none of that. It's just win your game. And are the players okay? Are they going to get paid? Are the contracts right? Are the sponsors good? It was just play basketball and win your game. And I feel like when that took place, it was like such a relief. So again, coming back to Australia and being in an organization like that where all you've got to do, and I feel like if the team's right, everyone here has an understanding. If we play with the passion and the energy and win, everybody's it's there, it's waiting for you. So that hurdle and not having to worry about that is a huge relief as coach. Huge.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, Paul, last season notwithstanding, you've had great success going that G League route. Obviously Will gets you to a grand final, Chase gets you 2 championships. Was there any thought of going that route again, or was it just Brian was available? It was just too tempting a proposition?
Well, normally you'd undertake a process,
Yeah.
which is an overused word in basketball recently, but we'd normally embark upon a process and we put the position vacant sign out the front, and being the Sydney Kings, the applicants arrive. We didn't want to go through that if we were able to get Brian. So it wasn't an interview, it was a conversation. And I think that's how it landed. If Brian wasn't available or didn't see this as the opportunity, we would have undertaken a process, absolutely. But that wasn't even a consideration at this point in time. And and bringing Brian here or bringing Brian back, I should say, which is really the important thing, is that he fits into an overarching plan for basketball in Sydney and New South Wales. And full credit to the Illawarra Hawks, as much as it makes me sick. It's great to see them, kicking on for New South Wales. But hats off to them, big ups for them. But we've got very ambitious plans for basketball, and that includes the imminent beginning of the construction of our high performance centre at Auburn, funded by the state government and Cumberland City Council, which is the first dedicated facility of its type in Australia for professional basketball, which is enormously exciting and creates ambition. And Brian fits so perfectly into the equation for us to help lead our team on court, lead our organisation in that regard, and create an environment in which young people want to play basketball. So it's a perfect fit for us. So in that regard, it was a unique opportunity. There's a lot of talented coaches out there in basketball, but very few have that unique combination of talent and knowledge and perspective that will fit so perfectly what we want to achieve here in Sydney.
Brian, given what you have already achieved in Sydney, is another championship the bare minimum, I guess, of what you will be expecting?
I want to hear this answer.
I haven't thought like that. It is a good question. A big part of a decision, a big part, and I remember, there was conversations through this about making a decision, and one of the places, you walk down here and it's got great this and great that, and the guy said to me, but if you're 0-4, it's a shitty job, go to where you can win. And, when you think of the Sydney franchise, you should be a champion. It's the best city, it's the best organization, it's got the best fan base, it's got everything. So to me, in this position each year when we go on the floor, you're putting a team together to win a championship. And if you don't, you're disappointed. So that means more than one, I guess is what I'm saying. We should be champions. It's the Sydney Kings.
That's a fine answer, as far as I'm concerned.
Within yourself as a coach, I guess, I know it's a long time, but what is the biggest change in you since the last time you were a King?
Probably I'd say a little more patient, in a lot of areas. Just it's funny when the younger I was more probably high strung, more emotional. I feel like I'm settled more, and probably listen more. Listen to my staff more. I realize that my staff is so important, and the people around me that have been with me before, and now I've come back and are with me again. One again, I was with Billy Thomas, and we were together for a long period of time, and then we were together on the day-to-day in Manila, and that's been a comment from you use the staff more, so more patient. The people around me, I think and when I say that, the people around me listen. So I'm a little more patient, and I probably listen more.
And we good? Questions, please.
Keith?
Well, I have one for Smithy. We're going to go back to you for a second. Beyond Brian's obvious GOAT CV, I won't even say GOAT-like, it is the GOAT CV, and the history with the club, all those things we've talked about, it's great. But what were the other qualities? Because you really have to dig down into coaches and players, into the things that have similar values and value alignment, if they're going to be the right fit and have the success that we want at the Sydney Kings. What are those other things that you see in Brian that makes him the choice?
It's like your funeral, mate. I can say nice things about you. Look, and I always say, in very open matters, I'm not an X's and O's guy. That's not my cup of tea. I rely heavily on our expertise of Chris Pongrass and Andrew Bogut and Luke Longley to bring that knowledge and perspective to that. So I like watching people and how they manage themselves and how they manage those around them. And I thought, quite frankly, it was very interesting, the World Cup with Brian, and it was a battle for the organisation and how you handled that. Pretty difficult situation, and the team wasn't performing as you'd like, and a lot of pressure and a lot of focus on coach and staff and players, and I thought that was interesting. But my abiding memory of Brian is leaving the Wynn Stadium after a game. I think we'd won, actually. We'd won game 1 down there or something like that, and how he did it. But he'd been to a function upstairs with the members and fans at the Steelers footy club there. But he left with a glass of red wine. And I don't know how you can sneak out of a licensed premises with a glass of red wine, but if you could do that, you can coach here, mate.
There's a little peek at things to come. And Coach, without giving away the secret sauce, as it were, I mean, obviously today's the announcement. This is great to have so many people here, and wonderful to welcome you back as always. But what is absolutely next? How does the sequence of events go in order to build a championship quality team from today, from early March?
The people. The most important times right now, in those championships we won, I remember he talks about a red wine. You have a red wine after the game, and the next morning it's like, we're going to burn it down for the next 3 weeks and then have a break. And for us right now, it's staff, it's players. These decisions right now make or break this whole conversation. So right now, starting to get our eyes together of who we're going to target and when we can, and moving forward and putting together the proper team and staff.
Is there a target date on having that secured? Because I know it depends on who's out there. It depends on the work of the Chris Pongrasses and you and the entire organization. But is there a date that we feel like we really should have our entire roster together by?
No, to be truthful, no. It's I don't. If you want that guy and he said, I'm going to wait for 3 weeks. You might have to wait for 3 weeks, but. It's targeting the right guy. It's targeting the guys that you have. There's nothing worse than dancing around with 4 or 5, and they're not going to come. It's like finding the right guy now and sitting and have conversations, targeting them, and go there and try to get them. And you get 2, and then the other pieces start to fall. But I've done it at times I've had my whole roster done in 2 weeks, and sometimes it's drifted in, into the second or third month. It's just getting the right ones.
And so for someone like yourself that is, heavy into international at that level, has coached basketball, around the globe, when you look at this league in particular and the changes that we've made in this league, and you've seen it firsthand coaching at Illawarra for those 2 years, what does it take? And we talked about the people for sure, it's personnel, but what does it really take now to win a championship in this league?
I think a great example right now, and you look at the great Kings teams. I remember when we lost at Wollongong, we came up here and they got the best player in the competition. They got Xavier Cooks. He's the best player in the competition. And then you had DJ, and you look at, I like Tasmania right now. I like Melbourne United right now. You've got 2 great Australian players. You've got great guard play. And then you've got that, you don't want 12. You've got that, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 young guys, the young Galloways, the Tuohys, the guys like that want to develop and come into it. But it's that balance. You can't have 12 guys that think they should be out there playing 40 minutes and scoring 40 points. But you need those 2 great Australian players. And that's really important for us right now. And then that guard play, I think, when you look at Melbourne and you look at Tassie, you got great guard play because you can stay in games with great guard play. And then, those pieces around it that are happy to play those roles. And a lot of times younger with development that are hungry. So that balance ain't easy, but, there is a formula, and I think that's, that I believe in that. That's when I've been good, is when you've had those bases covered, those 3.
And you have that formula, but is there a quintessential, because all those players are different roles. Even when you talk about development players, I imagine that a development player, even if they don't get the minutes, they're pushing other guys in practice. That's what we're talking about as part of that roster. But is there a quintessential type of player that Brian Goorjian looks for? Attitude.
Yeah. Then you get into, and it's a long conversation. And you sit down with, I know with the Boomers, and you're in this selection process, and you go, okay, and I go, well, hold on a minute. We don't all think the same way. What you think is a great player might not be what I think is a great player, and that's your point now. And it's coming to, here's 5 things that are very, very important in. Now when we're selecting a player, give him a 1 out of 10 on this, give him and again, talent's one, but the other, the aspect of a good teammate, great attitude, playing that Patty Mills aspect.
It's interesting you'd bring Patty up.
Well, he's just signed with Miami, so that one's, but there's an art to that, and it's a long discussion, but attitude, work ethic, teammate, that is a huge aspect. And when you look at the Kings, I always, when we played you those 2 years, when I was involved, I was Xavier Cook. That he bleeds for the club. He plays with a passion. You could see there's an electricity between him and his teammates, and he's a great player. That's different than just being a great player.
And I think just to wrap things up, Brian, not really putting you on the spot, but I'm going to, and just say, what would you like to say to any of the Kings fans or basketball fans about you coming back and what it feels like to come back? Just as a closing words, we'll give it to you.
Well, everyone, you've talked about, the expectations, and you're going to support us on it, but from the heart, really, it's thank you. I feel really welcome, and I feel excited, and I feel a warmth and a happiness, and I'm honored, and I'm humbled, and I feel really happy, and I just want to thank everybody. I don't know, everything that's come back to me about coming here, starting with Paul and all the people in the office and the organization, I feel like you're happy I'm here. And that I can't tell you what a great feeling that is. And I thank you. I really thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you being out here today. New coach, our Sydney Kings, Brian Goorjian.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.